Hello everyone, I'm Scott. I'm a teacher from Basingstoke College of Technology. I'm also in charge of digital learning here at the college, and we also help lots of schools and colleges throughout the country as part of the EdTech demonstrator programme. I'm joined by my wonderful colleagues today, Sky and Holly. Sky, could you introduce yourself please?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Hi everyone, my name is Sky. I've been a part of the digital team for 5 years. I was an apprentice and now I'm a senior learning technologist. I'll pass over to Holly quickly.
Hi everyone. So yeah, very much the same as Sky. Been here for 5 years. I started volunteering as a digital leader, then became a facilitator, and now I'm in the senior learning technologist role.
Thank you both. So in this session today, we're going to talk a little bit about the makeup of our team in relation to our origin story, I suppose. As Sky and Holly have rightly said, students growing up to become technologists and helping teachers and students across the college, not only this college, but other colleges and other schools throughout the country as well. We're a team of students turned technologists. I'm a teacher still, teach media 1 day a week, and I'm also charged with making sure that our teaching, learning and assessment and our use of technology improves our lives. Well-being, which is that phrase we're going to be talking a little bit about today. Here's an example on an inset day of our student digital leaders, the new crop, the new generation of student digital leaders leading a session with virtual reality and different immersive, engaging, collaborative EdTech that improves teaching and learning. And it's all subjects we aim to support and improve, not just your techie subjects, all subjects. The lovely Amira and Jay are two learning technologist apprentices as well in the frame there. This is important to point out early on, and it's something that only by talking about it out loud has it become increasingly apparent to me is probably the heart of everything we've done, really, consciously or subconsciously. Empathy mapping. This phrase, empathy mapping, it comes from design thinking. And the idea of seeing from the perspective of others, getting outside the prism, the echo chamber, filter bubble of our own day-to-day goings on, thinking about how things impact others, whether it be sitting in a classroom with a student, thinking what they see and hear and say and do, what their pain and gain is, what they feel, what they're thinking. And by sketching that out, making a note of their anxieties, their stresses, their barriers, it forces us to get outside of our own projected, transferred ideas of what that is and makes us really think about what they're going through. We do this with students and we do this with staff. Sometimes literally filling in the empathy map, sometimes just internally making a note of it. In our team, we've got an excess of empathy probably in terms of being a little bit maybe too sensitive at times in caring about how people feel, and that's really important, I think, in our team. I value that more than I do technology skills. I value the fact that we've got people in our team who are sensitive, emotionally intelligent and caring above everything else. Technology is very much further down the line. And our digital team who sit in a teaching and learning team have that at the heart of what we do, which is what informs this strategy we're going to be talking to you about today, really. Listening to staff and students from 6 years ago when we started this journey through to right now when we're helping other schools and colleges has helped us to be more conscious of the fact that we've got a duty to safeguard not only our young people, but also our staff that have had a complete wormhole open to anything and everything all of the time, with the last couple of years in particular. Constant access to emails, notifications, and the superficial busyness of being constantly doing work on our devices. It's actually had a detrimental effect on lots of our staff around the country and students as well. It isn't always advisable for these tools to be used. So we tried to reflect and pivot about that fact in last year, really. Out loud, we started to talk about the fact that we have a responsibility to be more intentional, more purposeful, more mindful about why we're using the technology we're using. So our strategy has that at its heart, just there actually. if you want to have a look at the strategy in more detail, I'm happy to share that with you if you get in touch through the EdTech demonstrator program. This is Justin on the screen right now. Justin had a really good chat with me. Bloody hard that was, because he sort of called me out for being just too much messaging, sending things, sharing things. At the weekend, we had an online Ofsted review. So I got a bit worried being in charge of digital learning, and I was messaging all the teachers who were going to be observed, trying to make sure they was all right. But I actually was just freaking them out and making them worry more, actually. And he told me that a week after the Ofsted online learning review, which went quite nicely. And he said, Scott, I wasn't worried until you started messaging me. You made me think I should be doing more, and broke me for a little bit, because it made me think that I'm doing a bad job. I'm worrying and stressing out the staff, when really it's my job to improve their lives and improve teaching and learning with technology. That really made me take stock. So Justin in particular is worthy of a mention. That led me on a bit of a reflective journey, I suppose, and I started naming and shaming myself on Twitter every single Monday from January 2021 through to, June it was. Naming and shaming myself in terms of my stats, my addictive behavior with being productive. I could justify it, right? Because I'm in charge of digital learning. So I could go, I'm being ever so professional doing all this work on my phone. In actual fact, I'm just feeding a habit, as it were. So I really brought down my hours of use, or rather the tech using me in that time period, which led to us reflecting more about staff and students. This next slide's a bit busy. So it's got rapidly flashing colours, so you might want to look away for about 10 seconds or so while I put it on the screen, if that's a concern or an issue. Okay. I put together this slide to illustrate or visualise this concept, I suppose. The idea that we have a million things pulling at us all the time, staff and students, is something that Sky, Holly and I had to confront when we started this new strategy. So this is what's informed the way we've moved forward. I've clicked away from the noisy slide in case you're waiting to come back and join us. Onto a much more manageable slide now. That's how your head felt like yesterday. You feel like that, do you, Richard? I'm sorry to hear that, mate. Very sorry to hear that. It does get a bit like that sometimes, doesn't it? It's just a bit too much. So we've taken it upon ourselves to make sure we are listening and empathizing with the learners and the staff members that we support. We are here to help. Here's some examples of how we've helped people with learner needs in particular. So we've got some great examples here. This one here, you made this, I think, Sky, way back when. We realised after listening to staff and students that doing virtual tours, showing the space in a new college environment for students before they come and join us, really alleviates the anxiety and frustration about where's the classroom, where's the toilet, where does the teacher sit, and being led by the wonderful Lindsay Spillane there, showing the space before actually physically come in. That was quite nice for a lot of our learners, and that's something we're looking to do more of with our marketing team moving forward. In terms of other tools that have been quite well received, we've got some exemplars here about how we use social media to get input from our peers, giving them a voice in a way that's familiar to them, using hashtags to join debates rather than nervously, verbally explain themselves. Some people aren't quite ready for that yet. So giving them a way to communicate via a text tool such as Twitter or any other number of tools, it's quite a nice way to get that engagement from people. In the top right here, this is a Google form to get people to let us know how they're feeling. A little empathy check at the end of sessions as part of an exit ticket. Sharing and amplifying wins, something I think we do a pretty good job of actually at the college. Things that are going well and praising people, whether it be staff, whether it be students, whether it be other colleagues, and sharing things that have gone particularly well. That culture of being positive and helping each other and amplifying things that are going positively is quite a nice thing. We do well at the college, I like to think. In the bottom left there is a stress check from Pear Deck. Pear Deck's a really nice tool that enables the students to actually let us know how they're feeling using this heat map of stress, as it were, from green being things are going quite well to red being it's all a bit much. I abandoned a couple of online lessons last year because I thought I was doing ever such a good job teaching online, and I did the stress check, and it turns out my students were just not ready to learn. They were struggling. So we just did that little check to find out how they were feeling. English used that quite well also, and still continue to use that stress check in Pear Deck as a way to check on the learner needs. Listening to the learners is ultimately the starting point for all of this. But also being mindful of the needs that we are responsible for preparing our learners for in industry. Using the World Economic Forum's top 10 skills of 2025, that really informed our strategy. And as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen there, a lot of those skills that are at the very top are those deeply human skills, those interpersonal skills, problem solving, critical thinking, being original problem solvers, innovating. So that really helped us to forge our strategy further and to take on board this chap's ideas as well. Sky, you mentioned him to me about 2 years ago, I think it was, Gerd Leonard, and I sort of read a couple of his books, and there's a phrase, like a throwaway phrase, where he talks about core skills, and these are the things that cannot be automated, cannot be digitized, these deeply human skills that are more and more valuable in an age of abundance of technology. Compassion, originality, responsibility, and empathy, core skills, what were once disparagingly called soft skills, are actually more important than ever. So we try to use technology to enhance these core skills. That's what's at the heart of what we do. So in terms of compassion, what we've started to do at the college this academic year is to find out how our students are engaging with technology. And we've actually captured that information. We've got a good baseline across the college now of average daily screen time, which is 5 hours and 37 minutes, 22 seconds every day. In a course that we created, which we'll be sharing more of a bit later on, we found out about the disruptive pings and notifications that pop up for our students. And in our digital wellbeing module, we found that 85% of them at the end of the module had a understanding how to moderate them using features like do not disturb mode and things like this. Things that in our digital wellbeing induction at the beginning of the year, we took it upon ourselves to help our students be more mindful of. Helping them to limit their mindless scrolling by cleaning up their home screen, that noisy, busy, attractive home screen with the bright colours and the sticky, frictionless environments that lay within. Helping them to tidy that up and to be more in control of what they see 150 times a day when they pick up their phone. Helping our students become more mindful of the fact that these are tools to be used by them, not the other way around. In our digital wellbeing module, we also helped our students to be conscious about their privacy settings. There's something in our site which we'll share with you shortly that I'm quite proud of in terms of the fact that we put that at the forefront of what we did. I think particularly with social media, that's something that we as educators can't sleep on anymore. We've got to be proactive about showing our students what they are giving away for free in terms of that their data and the impact that has on them long term. So strong passwords as well. This is one I was not too sure about whether it would be useful for us to include, but I think it's increasingly important that we, again, as educators, help our learners to be aware of what a good password is. I was never shown that, but we embedded that into our digital wellbeing module to help people be aware of what is a strong password, what isn't, in terms of their cybersecurity and tightening it up. So we did this as a Google form at the end of our module in the induction to get an idea, a baseline as to how our students engage with technology and whether they're aware of how they can wrestle back control. Do not disturb has been quite a popular feature, as has grayscale actually with our students, as we've been following up since September when we did the induction. This is our site. It's going over. Holly and I was talking about this earlier on. It's going to have a bit of a shake up soon, but the key ingredients are going to remain the same. We've curated lots of resources to help our students, whether it be apps, extensions, tools, or whether it be interactive self-marking videos on fake news or podcasts I can see Beth is there. Beth and I are going to be doing a podcast on this very topic soon, aren't we, Beth? Documentaries, animated series, and also discussion and participation groups, which reminds me, Sky and Holly, we've got to think about getting Clubhouse in there as well, because Clubhouse has got some really good digital wellbeing ones, actually. At the bottom of this website we've given out to our students, there's a little chat bot which comes through to our group, our team, for students to reach out to us if they're struggling with an abundance of access to everything. And a few people reach out already to us, and I can see that becoming a few more popular as the year goes on. This is going to run for us throughout the work we do now. Digital wellbeing is not some novel gimmick that we're leaning into because it's trendy. This is something we deeply, passionately believe in. It's at the heart of what we do moving forward. In terms of using technology to help our students show an original way of showing their understanding, presenting their knowledge, and creating, whether it be podcasts, discussing and debating and engaging in real critical thinking conversations about the NHS, like our lovely students on the right hand side are there, or whether it be like the charming Harry in automotive, using YouTube and video to actually capture how-to guides of how to speak to the customer when he's delivering service feedback, as they were back in 2016. That was. Automotive have been doing this for years. In fact, automotive are doing great stuff across the college at the moment. If you've got an automotive or motorsport department that wants to collaborate with our guys, please get in touch. Gemma and David are just doing incredible work at the moment, using technology to help their students show original problem solving. I like doing this. This is about a year or two ago. This was like a week before lockdown as well, so it's quite melancholy in a way. We did a fake rap battle between two pretend rappers. We invented two personas to teach our students about original thinking and about critical thinking and being skeptical about what you see online. We invented this beef between Lil Cowpole on the bottom left there and Huffin' Froth. You can see spitting fire in the booth there. Hello, Kev, I can see you there, and Candice, hello. You're right. Having a bit of a rap battle, we created these fake paparazzi shoots. We fake press releases, fake Twitter accounts, and built this beef between these two Basingstoke rappers as to who had the most views on YouTube, most spins on SoundCloud. And we had students from across the college try to get into our music department to try and see what was happening. It was all fake. It was all a ruse just to pull back and reveal that none of this was true. Some of our students at the college were actually joining in the Twitter beef and Instagram arguments between the rappers. It was all fake. It was all just completely created by us to make our students more conscious about the fact that, yeah, this is something we need to be skeptical of when we see things online that are fun. They're not always real. Our science students, about 2 years ago this was, were using tools such as Tinkercad and Labster. Labster is really good, virtual science experiments, to practice and iterate and design different ways to solve air pollution scenarios in Basingstoke in the North Hampshire area. Using technology as a tool to help them facilitate original thinking, to help them grow and develop and become employable, that's what we want to be doing more of. Again, why are we using the technology? It's got to be led by the why, as it were. Using whiteboarding tools, Microsoft Whiteboard, Jamboard, Miro, there's loads of good ones. Mural's really good as well. To have our students articulate in a way that perhaps is more familiar. I like to doodle and sketch when I'm starting with new ideas. A lot of people do. And a lot of our particularly lower level learners really got on board well with this way of showing projects, showing progress, annotating assignment briefs, updating their process on a long-term module or unit, showing their thinking in an original way that wasn't tethered to the standardized, structured scaffold of a Word doc, having a space to really think originally. An empty whiteboard where they could choose to use text or doodle or memes or images or different combinations of all those different elements. Here's one of the wonderful automotive teachers I mentioned earlier on, Gemma Westlake, so good. She does really good video walkthroughs for her students, screencasting herself, explaining what the students are expected to do. giving them tools like a Lectude, as you can see here, to facilitate that original problem solving again. They can go under the virtual bonnet and deduce against the clock what the problem is in that engine. Using tools like Jamboard and ThingLink, the automotive students have been using tools to facilitate that original problem solving. It's always with the purpose of helping them to grow and develop and to enhance the skills they're going to need in their industry. I mentioned this earlier on, it's worth another mention. Miro is like probably my favourite tool at the moment, actually. You can have all your 20 students, as it were, sort of flying around the board with their mice with their names on, interacting. Particularly when you're in hybrid learning, that can be really useful. Miro is completely free to educators, and you can use it to provide templates completely free to organise projects, to reflect, to show the process for a particular scheme of work. Really powerful, and while a little bit overwhelming at first, really fun. Really happy to sort of help anybody have a play with that if you're interested to have a look at Miro. But for original thinking, project work, group work, it's a really cool tool to facilitate that. Lightboard, we've got a couple of these now. Lightboard's really good. This is literally a big bit of glass with some LEDs around the outside, hardware really. And then we reverse the image, as it were. So our English and maths teachers in particular, but increasingly other teachers like engineering, can illustrate, present theory, and help our students to engage in concepts on demand, on video, revise, rewind, replay, as and when they need to. This tool helps us and helps our teachers to deliver information, theory, content, assignment brief, walkthroughs, rules, whatever it might be, in bite-sized learning chunks, which frees up Joe's time for in the lesson to actually spend more time doing one-to-ones, more coaching, more mentoring, more of the human bit that can never be replaced. So using tech with that intention to free up his time is something that the maths team in particular have reported back on really favourably. In terms of responsibility, this was quite well received with the 3 groups we rolled it out with. If you want a spreadsheet like this, then we can send it to you. We asked our students to reflect on how they spend 168 hours in their week. Using the drop downs, it generates these instant pie charts on the right hand side, and it helped them to reflect on just how much gaming they were doing, or just how much sleep they were or were not doing, or just how little family time they were having, or how much time they perhaps should have been studying. To do that now, early in the year, before we get into the business end of the academic year, was quite a rude awakening for a lot of our students, making them more conscious about the fact that, okay, yeah, I need to maybe swap over the gaming and study time on my pie chart here. Using tools like habit trackers as well, just using simple spreadsheets for our students to form new habits and to check in with us each week about whether they're sticking to these new habits in relation to limiting TikTok time or consciously choosing to spend time with people in real life as opposed to only via Twitch, for example. This is something we're developing as well in alignment with our commitment to responsibility with technology. It's our sex education site. We're working on this with health and social care learners at the college, and they've been really good fun to collaborate with. They're helping us to find some interesting, humorous TikTok creatives. I think you found this one for us actually, Sky, even though you claim to hate TikTok. Instagram Reels, though, this is, to be fair. Some really sort of funny, humorous, quite good-natured reflections on topics that are quite heavy, like consent, domestic violence, relationships, things like pornography as well. We're creating these self-marking videos, images, content, forums over the next academic year in relation to sex ed, because sure, if you are joining us from a further education institution in particular, we've noticed there's been a little bit of a shortfall in terms of people's understanding as to some of these topics and the impact it has on real life relationships. Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but it's a fight worth fighting, helping us, helping our learners understand these topics a bit more. Making platforms such as social media profiles, websites, blogs to display work publicly beyond the course. They're with us for a year, 2, maybe 3 years. So we want them to have something that transcends the qualification. We have an independent flips learning hour baked into every single full-time course. One of the most successful ways that that's worked, in my observations, certainly over the last 5 to 6 years, is when students actually create something that's meaningful to them and their career, their future. If they can create sites, blogs, social media that goes with them, then it tends to resonate quite a lot. They tend to take great pride in pruning and organising and growing and evolving that throughout the course as a way to display criteria and evidence, but also to think beyond that. Think about their reputation as well. Anna used to be a student digital leader who's now gone to university and is now working in the games industry. She's somebody who role modeled that quite nicely. So we try to get those exemplars from our students of people who've used tech intentionally to help improve their careers and holding up the positives of how it can be used, as opposed to just tutting and rolling our eyes at the naughty people on Snapchat. Try to actually show how it can be used really well, like Anna did. God bless Anna. Empathy. Showing that we can use technology to listen to other people. I've got all sorts of funny people contact me about doing this series about Black Lives Matter, saying I was selling out my race as a white man, and some nasty comments come to me. First time I've been properly cyberbullied, I suppose. But using technology to role model that we can talk to other people beyond our echo chambers. I contacted loads of people. Galwali's a wonderful TED Talk speaker who was ever so charming. And Liz, aka the Black Nursery Manager, having a chat with her on Instagram Live and having our students comment and message along was really useful. Seeing from perspectives beyond our own filter bubbles, using tech to elicit that empathy and that different perspective is something we really pride ourselves on doing, whether it be here in Basingstoke or in Birmingham, Alabama, discussing and debating different topics. Quite an old example, this, but it bears repeating because I haven't done anything like it since, really, and I really want to. So, challenge to you lot out there watching this. Debate and discuss with my students. Let's have a live stream discussion about something. It's always better when you have different people beyond just the 10, 15 people we're used to seeing every day. Challenge to you lot. Who will take me up on it? Let's have a live discussion debate about any topic of your choosing between my students and your students. It'll be fun. The childcare students were lovely on the right-hand side. Beth, I'll be sure to follow up with you about that motorsport, motor vehicle. David and Gemma are doing great stuff. Using video to see from the perspective of people carrying out tasks, whether it be the teacher, whether it be the practitioner in makeup and beauty, helping us to see from the perspective of others, using tech to elicit empathy and understanding different views is something we are really focused on doing. Second mention for this, but it bears repeating. The Pear Deck stress check is just a really nice, simple win, a free bit of EdTech that's quite nice to check in on our learners in your PowerPoint slides or your Google slides, whichever your God is. Using Google Forms and Microsoft Forms to do checks on your learners as to how they're feeling, not just how they're getting on with the learning, but how they're feeling, using emojis or using perhaps different ways to get them to express how they're getting on. We set it up in this prototype test about 2 years ago that if there was so many emojis that were negative in 3 consecutive weeks, then it instantly sent an email to a RAP tutor. Bit of a complicated formula behind the scenes, but it was really effective in the prototype we did. But now we just use it as a check every now and then, see how students are feeling. As a visual, we can see how the class are feeling. Helps us to then jump in if we need to and intervene in real life. Using chat groups. We've got loads of chat groups for pretty much every single subject area going now. Motorsport got a mention earlier on. Health and social care using theirs really well. Engineering have got theirs, maths and English. Chat groups with other colleges around the country are sharing ideas, sometimes showing off cool things they've done, sometimes asking each other questions about particular criteria in these chat groups using Google Chat. This is primarily. If you'd like to be any of these groups, want to be a part of any of these groups, rather, get in touch. We'd love to add you. I want more and more collaboration between colleges, because that's been a real sort of interesting byproduct of this EdTech demonstrator program, is the fact that when we start to collaborate with others, that's when the best work is achieved, I think. Another tool to elicit empathy is Flipgrid, hearing from perspectives across the class, but also perspectives in other departments and other lessons in other schools and colleges on any given topic, using it as a way to actually get responses, video, text, or just audio, using filters in quite a fun, dynamic way. It's something that our travel and tourism guys have used really effectively recently. It'd be lovely to use Flipgrid to have even more perspectives from other colleges with our students. So again, if you would like to collaborate with us using Flipgrid on a particular topic in a particular subject, it could be quite useful, particularly for any communication related criteria. Using the responses and reply feature in tools like Stream and YouTube to get the students to actually engage in dialogue with us after we give instruction to them, using assignment brief walkthroughs and using other video guides to deliver theory and other aspects of our courses. The idea that it's not just a one-way didactic communication, but they can reply and respond underneath using Teams or Classroom or just the YouTube comments is something we're trying to encourage more of. The idea that the students can actually ask follow-up questions. I appreciate not everyone's got access to this wonderful kit here. We're happy to demonstrate it to people if they're curious to have a look at it, but using virtual reality as an empathy machine to see from the views and perspectives of others is something that I was not convinced on until a few years back when we started to see how it was used in practice. Having our students use it to build engines on the left-hand side, collaborate and work with each other. Beth, we've got a list of really cool curated VR links, free stuff as well as paid stuff. I'll be sure to follow up with you afterwards, okay? Whether it be electricians in the middle there, or whether it be fashion design in the bottom middle there, or whether it be on the right-hand side where English students develop their auditory skills, communication skills, ability to articulate what they are seeing, storytelling skills, I suppose, as they travel to solve a technical issue on a spaceship as they go into the moon, or whether it be using Google Earth to fly around the world and to actually come out of the VR headset and to actually articulate it and write it down, or to record a podcast reflecting on it. Using VR to experience and see from different perspectives is crucial to us. This is something we're about to sort of delve deep into. Using virtual reality to practice interviews, to practice those interpersonal skills, diffusing tough conversational issues, having a challenging chat with the boss, or maybe a confrontation with a co-worker. And body swaps is a tool that I'm more and more impressed by the more we experiment and play with it. We're about to go into a bit of a prototype, testing it long term for the rest of this year. Very happy to share our findings as they reveal themselves. The little test I did on myself and another person, we very much in favour of it, but you know, listen to the user, listen to the staff, see what they think. That's where we are right now. I thought it was worth adding here. A little glimpse of the future. So these skills here, these core skills, is at the heart of all we do. Our strategy, which is available for anyone to have a look at, which has tangible, measurable, quantitative, qualitative expectations and KPIs, is available as well if you get in touch with us. As part of the EdTech demonstrator program, we want to help people as much as possible. Okay, Sky and Holly, done my bit. Over to you now.
Lovely. So I'll just share my screen to continue from here. Just 1 second. Ooh. And yeah, we're just going to talk a bit more detail about what we've been doing around digital wellbeing, specifically in our sort of lessons. And the main thing we're going to look at is our digital wellbeing at BCoT site. So if I get started. So this just sort of tells you about how this strategy fits in as the wider college, so not just within our team. So it's really important for us that we align ourselves with what the rest of the college is doing and make it a really integral thing that is repeated amongst all the different kind of areas, both curriculum and corporate and in the lessons. And as part of that, we've got a few different strategies going on at the college. So we've recently invested in a wellbeing progress mentor, and that was after COVID due to the increase in anxiety, which I'm sure you've all experienced in your own areas. We've got on-site counselling teams, 60 mental health first aiders, a specialist SEN support team, a really open access to the principal, so he's always really welcoming of anyone who wants to talk to him. And we have an improved dashboard. So part of that is about highlighting different user needs, creating group profiles and having a record of student behaviour in our comments section. And that was something we actually developed in-house, so we're really lucky to have that available. So this again very much was formed from the sort of time during COVID, and it was a way to help our staff know how to sort of consistently support our students. And part of that is demonstrating the good mental health and keeping our own levels in check, providing that structure and trying to make sure that students were as used to things online as they are in the classroom. Identifying support. So again, this goes beyond COVID and continues today. Working as a team, having really open and honest communication with each other and students, saying it's okay to not understand and we're all learning together, and sort of showing that compassionate side. Being patient and giving time, so making sure no student feels left out or left behind. And again, encouraging and allowing students to offer peer support and helping facilitate those kind of conversations, which otherwise could be quite difficult. And very much linking in with our core skills, teaching those empathy things and looking at different perspectives. So at the college, we've got an incredible RAP team. So each one kind of looks after a different area of the college. And each week they do an hour tutorial. And as part of this, in their second week, they went through mental health and the support that we offer here at the college. This followed directly on from our digital wellbeing session that they did in flipped learning. So again, it's creating that consistency and that route across the different areas and making sure the messaging is repeated. They offer the one-to-one support, and they also are able to signpost to external organisations. We also have an app called Safeguarding 24, which is new to us this year, and it's an online reporting system which is really smooth and streamlined as well. We created our Wellbeing Toolkit. So as I'm sure you're all aware, there's so many different things out there and so many different places to go for information and support that we wanted to make it really clear where students could go to get that help and support. And we created this little toolkit. So this was both a poster, a digital handout and a physical card that they took away at the end of the session. And part of that included all those people I've mentioned before about our RAP tutors, counselling team, college nurse, as well as online tools like Couth and Fika, as well as the reporting app, and then access to different apps charities as well. So again, it was a nice little succinct way of giving that direct support to students. And of course, breaking this down then so it's not too overwhelming as well, to sort of say, here's all of this now go away and use it yourselves, offering that support alongside it. As part of that, we had app recommendations, and this was both in the week 2 and our digital wellbeing site. So as part of this, they got to explore and have a look at these different app recommendations from us. And a really key part of that was looking at those different things that those apps could bring. So some of it was about learning, about how to control your emotions, speak to other people, keep your brain active and healthy. Another part of it was to relax. So those really important things about taking breaks, having that really deep learning and thoughtful kind of time, and reflecting and looking back at sort of issues and problems. And the last one there is to help. So those kind of apps there, especially the Stop app and Calm Harm, are for those really immediate kind of at-risk students. So those tools are really great for those who self-harm or have suicidal thoughts. So it can help distract them and be part of a coping mechanism to sort of help them. So we really wanted to provide those different areas to help students identify their needs and be able to respond with a tool that could help alongside all of the other support we offer. And as part of that as well, it's about being outside of the classroom and being safe. So obviously in college, they have a whole array of support that we can offer, but when they go home, they don't necessarily have that support mechanism. So putting these up offered those different ways for them. So just to touch on this as well, so COVID support. So we were really proud of how we sort of helped both students and staff during COVID. And the bits of information you can see on the screen here were some of those things that we offered. So we created kind of how-to guides, both video, audio and written, as well as how-to videos for the teachers of how to set up Google Meets and sort of sharing best practice about how to do their lessons. Many of our staff started by doing sort of 3-hour lessons, just constantly talking. And for them, they found they were burning out really quickly. So the sort of teaching and learning team and alongside our team helped to recommend apps that could help guide different learning outcomes and let them go away and do tasks so the teacher didn't have to be stood there sort of talking for those 3 hours. So the same thing with that staff support. We have internal mechanisms that support our staff, and these are 2 of them. We have our internal counselling team, which is available to staff, and Headspace for educators as well, so they can sign up to that for free. But alongside that, we also make sure that we have this all-staff chat room that we have where we can share best practice, tips and tricks, and making sure we have those sort of breakout sessions and time to support staff. And a part of our digital strategy is coaching. So we make sure that we have one-on-one time with all of our teachers at some point over the next 5 years to actually sit down and understand their individual needs and how we can support them. And that could just be things like streamlining their workflow. It's not necessarily to do with teaching and learning. It's about how we can help them feel more comfortable with technology. Another thing we do, as I said, is this praise. So in our all-staff chat room and our all-staff email, we share these little graphics that we create, just praising staff who have done really well in terms of setting flipped learning work for that 1-hour independent study we have. And here are just a few examples of those. And we think it's really important to be able to, at the same time as sharing best practice, actually praise our staff members who are doing really well. So where we fit into kind of this whole sort of strategy is obviously having the digital strategy that our senior management have backed, and it's part of the integrated links that go out to all areas. Having our digital wellbeing session in the flipped learning. Role modelling best practice, so our own habits and sort of sharing how we do things to sort of look after our well-being, both mental health well-being and sort of digital well-being. Embedding the tips into tutorials, so each week the students now get a little tip about how they could improve their well-being digitally. As I mentioned, the student dashboard, making sure that that is really up to date and has all those features that will help identify needs, creating resources, and again, our staff coaching programme. And I'll just hand over to Sky now, who will go through our digital wellbeing site in more detail.
Thanks, Holly. Do you want to keep presenting, and I'll do a bit of a Chris Whitty. So as both Scott and Holly have alluded to, we this year did a digital wellbeing site, which was a module that all of our learners went through at the beginning of the year in their flipped learning session. And as Holly's demonstrated, this has been followed up throughout the year. So it was a standalone unit, but we've sort of carried on with the theme of digital wellbeing and embedding that through tutorials and a few events that we've got planned sort of future in the year. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go, we had sort of 5 main sections, and I'll take you through each of them a little bit here. Hopefully you can all see that video, but it shouldn't have any sound. So at the very top of the site, the first thing the students saw when they entered it was this video from our principal, Anthony Bravo. And this video really just contextualizes what the students will be doing when they go through the site, and also is just Anthony's own words sort of reiterating the importance of digital wellbeing. So in particular, things like digital reputation. We're a further education college. Our aim is to get all of our students into either higher education or employment or apprenticeships. And digital reputation is an unavoidable part of that now. There's no point us supporting them with their qualifications if no employer is going to even invite them to an interview because their online behaviour isn't suitable. So contextualising that and having it from our principal to show that this isn't just a little tidbit that they do at the beginning of the year. This is really crucial to everything we do and their experience at the college was really important. A bit further down the page, we had a bit on terminology. So as you'll see when we go through this site, some of the language, and we linked to some studies, it's quite high level. We put in a tool called Rewordify.com. This is just a website, and it's one of my absolute favourites to recommend for students who struggle with terminology sometimes, or just have like lower language skills, because basically you can copy and paste like bits of text, pop them into Rewordify, and it just comes up with synonyms for more complex words. So at the moment, all of our students level 2 and up went through this course the same. As we develop it, we'll be looking at sort of tweaking it and modifying it. And for our sort of, level 1 and entry level students, we have done, rather than self-directed course, we've done sessions with them on an on-off basis. But that was just a tool to make sure that this was as accessible as possible for everyone doing it. And then also, as you'll have seen at the bottom of the page, we wanted to start off on a really positive note, because as Scott said, we're not here to tell them that digital, social media, etc. is going to ruin their lives, because they're going to use it anyway. So we've included lots of examples in here of how students in previous years have used social media in a really positive way, and also what flipped learning looks like at the college, because that's a big part of our digital strategy. So part 2, this was our learn section. So this is the bit where we had various studies linked in. And again, we thought it was really important that the website was linking to evidence and studies, and wasn't just sort of us saying, this is what we think you should do. So we tried to include lots of real world data, studies, and also external links that you'll see towards the end, to make sure that our students could actually go ahead and look into this in more detail and give them a bit of autonomy over their own relationship with technology. As you can see now, at the end of each page, we had a little check section as well. So this was just little self-marking embedded questions to make sure that learners could check that before they moved on and see if they'd sort of read the content. Next page. So page 3 was the identify page. This was a personal favourite page for me, and I think sort of was one of the things that was the most impactful in the sessions. So at the top here, we embedded a tool from Google, a little quiz from Google, which is a little self-rating quiz, which is actually quite nice at reflecting on your relationship with technology. And then down here, you'll see just there where there's a calculator. We did something called the life calculator. So what I did here was, I'm a bit of a spreadsheet nerd. So I put into a spreadsheet to work out if someone spends X amount of hours on their phone every day, what does that look like over the course of their life? That's based on starting from the age of 13 and living to the age of 80. And then students could flip over the card and see what that looked like for them. And I think putting it like that, just breaking it down into pure time and what else could they be using that time doing, was quite impactful. One thing that was really important in terms of the approach when we put this page together is that we didn't sort of give a recommended screen time or say what they should be doing, because actually no one knows, and not all screen time is equal. So, you know, I use my phone quite a lot for work to check my emails when I'm on the move, because I'm not always at my desk. That drives my screen time up. That doesn't mean it's bad screen time. So we didn't want to be dictating to students that they should be having X hours per day. Really, we just wanted to make them mindful of how much they were spending on their phones, and whether they were happy with that. So section 4 covered privacy. As Scott mentioned above, this included some things about strong passwords, recognizing phishing scams. This is some of the stuff that was perhaps a bit closer to the typical online safety that people get taught in school. But also we went into particular detail on social media and device settings. I had a really interesting session last academic year with some health and social care students, and the session was actually teaching them research skills, but as a way to sort of embed digital wellbeing, I got them to Google themselves, like their names with quotation marks, to use different Booleans in Google search. And it led into some fascinating conversations, because you may or may not be aware, there's lots of websites which basically trawl the web and take people's profile pictures from various social media sites to create kind of scam sites. And a lot of our students were suddenly finding that their profile pictures or their names were appearing on all these sites that they had no idea they were there. So social media settings was a really hot topic for our learners, because again, digital reputation is something we really try and drum into them from the word go. No matter how stellar your CV is, if you're a prospective employer Googles you and there's some unfortunate content up there, then you're not going to get that interview. So we have instructions for how to change their settings and things there. And sorry, do go ahead. And then on the next page, we have this quiz. So this is the quiz that Scott showed you a few of the results from towards the beginning. And this was basically recapping things throughout the site, just to check the comprehension of it, really. But also to include some of the things that we thought were the most important takeaways, because we do appreciate, so this site was, the course went on, they had an hour to do it self-led. It was an introduction, really. So this was just a chance for us to reiterate some of the sort of key points, I guess. So after completing the quiz, they came through to the Explore page. Now this page really is very heavy content-wise. And I think, so I think during the induction, we suggested that students explored at least 2 of the sections from Wellbeing, Connection, Digital Citizenship and Productivity. But this is the page that, as we're embedding Wellbeing throughout the year, we're coming back to more and more. So probably about a year ago, we created a wakelet within our team to start putting different resources that we found relating to digital wellbeing, digital citizenship, online safety. And the Explore page is really a product of that wakelet, split into sections and categorized, and a lot easier to navigate thanks to Holly's design skills. So this is a place where, again, our students can go, and it links out to lots of external resources, as well as some internally created ones, as you see there. But again, the idea here was to make students take some ownership of their relationship, and to encourage them to, whether it's following Instagram profiles, there were certain sort of organizations that we recommended that they looked into, just to try and have a more holistic interest in their own digital well-being. There's also at the top of each page some sort of top tips and takeaways, which, as Holly alluded to, is now being sort of embedded throughout their weekly wrap sessions as well. So finally on the site, we had the next steps page. We wanted to make it really clear to all of our students from the beginning of the year that we weren't just going to throw this site at them and say, okay, that's it, now you're on your own. So this page gives an overview of Launch Space and our Learning Hub and all of the technical resources that are available to our students. For example, we've got a photography space where there's a green screen, white background, black background, where we encourage students to book in with us to go there and have professional profile pictures taken for their LinkedIn. They've got links to how to contact our team, and also an overview of all of the equipment that they can use in their classes. At the very bottom as well, we had some takeaways there. I won't wait for you to go back down. We've got 4 minutes left. So for the last bit, I'm going to hand back over to Holly, I believe.
Lovely. So just so we can sort of share with you what we're going to be doing in the future, here are a few things that we're doing going forward. So on the 9th of February, it's Safer Internet Day. And in that on that day, we're going to be having the RAPs go through a session about internet safety, just to sort of reiterate our messaging. And part of that is going back to that Explore page to actually look at those things in more detail. And at that point, they'll also be doing our second questionnaire, which will be that comparative data to our first one, so we can see how it's improved from what we've sort of been teaching them. We'll also be doing a digital wellbeing day, so that will be coming in a few weeks, and that is with staff as well. So they get a chance to learn more about their own digital wellbeing from us and go through the kind of same program that the students went through. We'll also be having a Wellbeing week for students, again, to reiterate just sort of mental health and sort of resilience sort of thoughts, but also, again, reiterating some of our messaging around digital wellbeing. As we mentioned, we'll have those tips and apps going out to them in those tutorial sessions. And we've also got a mental wellbeing website being created in collaboration with our Wellbeing Progress Mentor. And that's going to be a big part of a big change coming to sort of our team in the college, where we're sort of making sure we're communicating with other areas in a much more efficient way. And for this last bit, I'll just pass over to Scott to tell you about how you can get support from us.
I know Scott was having connectivity issues earlier on, so I think we might have lost him. I'll cover this page, and then I know we've got 3 minutes left, but if anyone has any questions, please do pop them in the chat. So as Scott mentioned at the top, we're part of the EdTech Demonstrator Programme. This is a free support, peer-to-peer support programme, so you can sign up at the link, which I will pop in the chat now. And we have blank copies of our digital wellbeing site, where we've removed the sort of BCoT specific and BCoT branding parts, and we can share that with you through the programme. But we can also do group training. We could do staff training, whether that's relating to digital wellbeing or more generally online learning, digital strategy, and also just give advice and guidance. This programme is only running until the end of March, so if you do want support, it won't be as long term now, but we can certainly offer rapid support through this. So do please feel free to click on the link there. And otherwise, I think we've managed to finish in pretty good timing. So thanks very much. Please do feel free to reach out to any of us. We've got our email addresses there, and also we're all on Twitter with those handles. If you have any questions to pop in now, go for it. Or otherwise, drop us an email. Yeah, that's a really good point. So the apps that we recommend are ones that we've all tried ourselves. We don't like to just sort of pick them off of random websites. All of the ones that are paid, I believe I'm right in saying, have free trials. So we're directing students towards them to try them out and see whether they're interested in using them. But really, it's up to them whether they want to use them. So again, this is for both from our 16+ students, but also adult learners. And some of them, the reason we put them in is because they are really high quality. And unfortunately, with apps in particular, there's some fantastic free ones out there, but some of the ones which have a payment scheme are just higher quality. So, you know, we like to put them out there for people who are in a situation where they could use that. I'm just going to mute myself because I believe Holly's got something to add.
Yeah, sorry, we should have said at the beginning, but me and Sky are actually in the same room, so we have to do a switch between our mics. But yeah, just to add on that as well, part of it, as I'm sure most of you are aware of, is with those apps, some of them are free to begin with, and then by the time we've recommended them, they become paid. So we often do a vetting at the end of each year just to check if they're still fully free or not. But as Sky said, a lot of it is giving them the choice as well.
Lovely. Well, thank you all again for joining. And I think Holly's posted a link there. We've got a few other ones coming up, webinars, including one on accessibility, and what's the other one, Holly?
It's finding tech with a purpose, so how you can embed that across different curriculum areas.
Oh, it's right on the screen there.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us, and please feel free to sign up and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.